topic of the week is the Animal Crossing Fiasco.
Fiasco is the right word.
It's been blowing up everywhere, hasn't it? Well, the first bit of it, we could have done this in the news section, but I thought, no, there's been so many things going on with Animal Crossing and we know nothing about it. So there's all these rumors, there's all this and this and this. And then Nintendo have been drizzling things out. And one thing they drizzled out, and it was quite a while ago, but people have been picking up on it more recently because of the newer news, is that Animal Crossing New Horizons has one town or island per Switch.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before we delve into that, you're not too enthused by Animal Crossing, are you, Nick?
I'm very enthused by Animal Crossing.
Oh, you are? Sorry, I'm thinking of Greg then. Good. This will make for a much better discussion. So what do you think? I am as well. What do you take away from that one island per Switch news?
To be honest, this doesn't really bother me that much because apart from the GameCube game, I've always played Animal Crossing alone.
Yeah.
It's like a communication game for me and myself, basically. I should say that the GameCube Animal Crossing was my most played GameCube game by a country mile. Me and my ex-girlfriend at the time, we're talking like nearly 15 years ago now.
Yeah.
We had 6 memory cards and we had 6 towns and we just lived in that game for about 2 or 3 years. And it was great fun. Like, it was really good fun. We had our original town, obviously, which we spent about 6 months to a year building up. And then I just went to Blockbusters and got a load of cheap memory cards so that we could trade through, and get more money for them from other towns.
Yeah.
But then, obviously different characters. Like, we had a best town. Who would come and live in the best town? We'd boot out, the rubbish ones and try and get them to move to the other towns, because they would tell you when they were planning to leave. They would tell them, I'm thinking about leaving, and you could say, no, don't, please stay. Or you could say, oh, I'm not that bothered. And then the next time you visited another town, they went. So we had a town for the rejects, the animals that we didn't like. And then obviously we had our main town where we had the best ones, like Chief, who's my favourite character from Animal Crossing.
What animal is Chief?
He's a fox.
He's a fox.
Yeah, but he's the grumpy character. So I can't
sassy.
Not sassy. I can't remember what it is now. It's been so long. And then the DS one as well, not 3DS one. It was
3DS. A 3DS one was the only one I played.
By far, I haven't played any 3DS game. That. But I was quite disappointed by the Wii and the DS ones. They didn't really add enough for me. I thought New Leaf really sort of pushed the boundaries a little bit. But obviously, I think that was only one DS, one save, wasn't it? Probably.
The 3DS was, because my son would drop in as well, and it did, regardless of who, it's when they're 3DS, it was one island, yes. I'm trying to think of, could you switch the user on a 3DS? You couldn't, no, so it was just the one island on the one cartridge. So my son used to frequent the same island, the same town, which I created, basically. But I have a feeling you could create a separate one. Yes.
Second cartridge, maybe?
Save file. I can't remember.
I played this game completely alone, but I wonder if a second cartridge would have meant you could have had a second town. We should have done this research before we started, but never mind.
Yeah.
For me personally, the idea of Animal Crossing is that everybody lives in the same town. So let's say you have 8 users on one Switch, which, let's face it, nobody does really, do they? I'd say 4 or 5 is probably the maximum. Then that's how the game's designed. Yeah, you have one town.
Just like your one house your family's living in, for example.
And everybody lives in that town, in that city or whatever, or village, whatever you want to call it. And then, and everybody has their own house.
Yeah.
And that's how it's worked.
Yeah. That's how me and my son used to play it on 3DS, We had our separate houses, and I'd walk over to his house and drop some money outside his door, and then when he loads it up, he's like, hey, I got $1 million bells.
But I mean, the thing that me and my ex-girlfriend did with the GameCube version basically was cheating.
Yeah.
Because it took up a full memory card. It took up 59 blocks of the memory card, so a full memory card. And you obviously had to buy more memory cards to have more towns. There was no other way to do it. So I can understand why. I mean, this is ingrained in Animal Crossing's blueprints, basically, isn't it?
Yeah.
One town and everybody lives in it. So I don't see this as a problem.
I don't, but, and Smeagol didn't on the forums as well. He said, I actually liked having my brother on my island. And yes, I like having my son on my island, as well. And, and now the thought of actually on the Switch having us both running around together at the same time as well, on the same screen, put it up on the TV and both of us running around doing things together, that, I'm looking forward to that as well. But Sheikah has said that his wife is the type of person that you don't want to see a Stardew Valley save, how many hours she's put into that. But she's the type of person that will get in there, do everything possible for the day, and then he'd come home from work or whatever and look towards playing it, and there'd be nothing left to do. I can see that as a valid criticism.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think that's a valid point as well. If you have two people and one is playing the game much more, then obviously the person who plays the game less will see much less.
Yeah.
And I mean, what can you do in that situation? The game's supposed to be about communication, so yeah, you can talk about it.
Leave me something to do.
That's not as much fun as playing the game. Or you can send a letter to an animal slagging off the person who lives in your town.
Oh, yeah. Well,
and then the animal will give it to them and read it to them and say, well, he said that you're like this, so I'm going to call you this from now on. And that's basically what you can do at the end of the day. That is essentially what's built into the game. But I do understand that point, and it can be really cool to have separate towns and to visit each other in that way. I think if it is a family and they're all in the same town, if one person does dominate, then yeah, it can suck the fun out of it a bit. So I do understand Sheikah's point of view. Absolutely.
So I'm hoping that my son won't suck the fun out of it for me. But even if he does, I'm not going to begrudge him for it, Anyway. Now, this kind of leads on to what has been happening subsequently, is that cloud saves are not to be supported in this title whatsoever. Now, there's subsequent news again after that. Now, Lazy Boy said, I still think how a game is saved is part of the game design. The cloud saves, though, surely that we need some way to back up our save just in case we lose part of it. Does that bother you in any way, Nick?
Cloud saves not being supported, no.
Right.
Doesn't bother me.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the next part, which is the
Yes.
bigger contention. I know I was trying not to spoil it yet, but it's that the German release, the back of the box they had, the German release seems to indicate with a translator that you will not be able to transfer your save data or user data to another Switch. So obviously it's probably linked in part to the cloud save. So if I get my save data on my Switch, which I save to not the SD card, the Switch system itself, if my Switch breaks, I can copy all my games across and all my save data for all my other games across to my new Switch, except Animal Crossing. I can't imagine the situation where I'm 100 hours into Animal Crossing, my Switch dies for whatever reason, and I've got to restart the entire island. I think that would finish the game for me.
And me as well.
This infuriates you, yes?
It's ludicrous, to be honest. It doesn't infuriate me. Infuriate is a very strong word, but it is ludicrous. I mean, the most ludicrous thing is there has been absolutely, in classic Nintendo style, there has been absolutely no attempt whatsoever to really make people understand what the situation is, to quell any fears or any worries. It's just, this is our way. Yeah. We're not going to explain it. If you don't like it, tough.
I heard on another podcast as well, and they're bringing up bringing up the fact that, in the past, Nintendo have been, no, this game doesn't need online. This game's a couch co-op. And it's antiquated. It's this old-fashioned system of, but we've grown up now. I'm nearly, I'm pushing my 50s, and I don't have friends who come over and play couch co-op. I'm very lucky that I have a son at the right age who does, and he brings his cousin over. Many other people don't. They want to play online. It's that kind of feeling for me. It's like, oh, you're out of touch.
I guess a little bit out of touch in that sense, but I just think the whole situation could very, very easily be addressed.
Yeah.
And they're not interested in addressing it because it's not part of their messaging. Yeah, it's not. And that's what's infuriating as well about this game, especially about Animal Crossing, is that this is one of the biggest games. Basically, it's one of Nintendo's biggest franchises. There hasn't been a new one for almost 8 years. I think, was it 2012?
Yeah.
Or even earlier, maybe, it was New Leaf. So we're going on nearly a decade. And we've had 2 very short videos. All that we know that's in this game so far is crafting and 8 players in
one village and online.
And that's it. That's all we know.
We'll talk about it. We know a little bit, something maybe a little bit more, but we'll talk about that later.
I hate the messaging. I want to know what the game is like. I know it's out in a month and I know there's probably going to be a very big direct, but the whole situation with them not being able to transfer the saves is just another thing on top of a long list of things that I feel personally they haven't done very well with this game. And I just want to give one example.
Yeah.
Last week, as you know, I got a new memory card for my Switch because I was out of space, so I bought a bigger memory card.
Yeah.
Now, if my Animal Crossing save had been on the memory card, again, we don't know. Maybe they'll lock it so it's only on the system. Maybe you won't be able to save it to the memory card. But let's say it's on the memory card. Does that mean I wouldn't have been able to put it onto a bigger memory card?
This is it. They at the moment, maybe because they haven't finalized their kind of spiel about what the game is, and they haven't pushed this Animal Crossing Nintendo Direct out. They're not ready to talk about it. And the problem is they give in these, we are getting the information from second-hand sources or third-hand sources, and then we jump into conclusions.
Maybe, but this is a problem. If you are releasing promotional material about your game, such as box arts and the back of the box, and nobody knows what the hell is going on in the game.
It's time to come clean. Yeah.
Exactly. What do you expect? It's just bad messaging. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, it's poor marketing and bad messaging. And if they had come out and said 3 months ago, this is what the situation is, then all of this could have been avoided and lots and lots of people on YouTube would have made a lot less money in January and February.
Quite true. So, that save data for the game will be shared, like we know, it's one save data, so it's shared between all the users on the system. That is their reasoning for saying that, all right, we're not going to have cloud saves because all the users would be sharing it. It makes it very difficult because cloud saves work on a single person system, but for me, this doesn't hold true as well because Splatoon 2 doesn't have save cloud data. And I understand the reason for Splatoon 2, and D-Cubed kind of brings this up. He says, it sucks. I get why it doesn't work with Save Cloud and Nintendo Switch Online service. It's because the unique way that Animal Crossing handles a save file being shared across 8 users on one console. The Save Cloud only backs up save data on a per user basis. Yes, but surely there must be some workaround anyway. So they've had to come up with a custom solution here, and all their 4 previous systems were hacked due to save file exploits. He can say it's not hard to see that they've locked down the save file system. And for Splatoon 2, in my view, yes, you can see that's a more competitive game. You could have file duplications and item duplication and things that Nintendo, you're cheating the system basically. But they don't have cloud saving for Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. NBA 2K19 doesn't have it. FIFA, all the FIFA games don't have it. So if Clown Ferret's Switch goes down, he's lost his Ultimate Team. They don't have it for Dead Cells and Dark Souls Remastered. Those are the ones that come off the top of my head. There probably are others, but save clouds. So yes, it holds up what D-Cube said, but how do you feel about that?
I think, that's perfectly reasonable. And of course, in Splatoon 2, there's valid reasons. As you mentioned, item duplication, save file manipulation, perfectly reasonable. In Pokemon Let's Go, I'm sure it's the same reason, duplicating Pokemon, basically. NBA 2K19 and FIFA 19 are completely full to the brim with loot boxes. So that doesn't surprise me, You open the loot box, you don't get what you want, switch the game off, start again. Of course, that's why. Dead Cells, I'm not too sure, to be honest. I'm not really sure why that doesn't have any, but okay, it doesn't really matter. Dark Souls, I guess it's similar reasons for item manipulation. So not having a cloud save for Animal Crossing, in my personal opinion, is completely understandable. 100% understandable. I'm not mad about this. And the first reason is because you can manipulate items. You can manipulate time. Okay. That's not part of the game. So fair enough. They might lock it out. But what D-Cube says as well about how everything is user based and this is going to be all the users on the system wide, again, sounds like a very plausible reason for doing this. I
agree.
I don't have an issue with this whatsoever. But
HOT and Sheikah do.
Yes.
Yeah. HOT is saying, well, that's Nintendo's problem for not having robust enough security systems. Why does the customer have to pay the price for Nintendo's failings? And Sheikah says, the problem exists because they created it themselves. If they had let you have individual save files for each Switch user on Animal Crossing, then, they wouldn't have to go through this. And anyway, he says that Animal Crossing is not a competitive game. Mm-hmm. So why are you trying this save item and duplication and all that? Why are you trying to manipulate the consumer into not doing it as easily as maybe they should do it?
And both of them make extremely valid points.
Yes.
Which I also agree with. I see D-Cube's reasoning and I agree with what he says. I think it's sensible what they've done. But at the same time, why have they designed the game like this?
Why they designed it like this,
Honestly, it feels like they thought about what they wanted to do first. And then when they're 6 months away from launch, they were like, oh, yeah, cloud saves. What are we going to do about that? Yeah. How can we've made one town for the whole Switch. Oh yeah, but the user thing doesn't work now. And they're just don't know, figure it out later. And it is true. It is completely true that the fact that they can't fund their security properly means that we are paying the price, basically.
It was on the forums, well, it might have been Sheikah again. It was mentioned on PS4, they have no problems with games not similar to this, but games like Pokemon with save duplication. They have moderators, and people chasing up and banning people, and Nintendo banned people themselves. Maybe it's just they can't be bothered doing it. It's too costly a venture.
I think the turnover from PlayStation Plus is probably a little bit higher than Nintendo Switch Online. But still, we spoke about it last week, $300 million that they didn't have 2 years ago.
Oh, there were some statistics on that as well, saying that it is, off the top of my head, about 29% of Switch users have a Nintendo Switch Online.
It seems quite low, actually.
It does seem low for me. Compared to this seemed low as well, 38% on PS4.
But you got to remember there's 108 million PS4s out there now, so that's still 40 million. Times that by $60 a year, and you're laughing basically all the way to the bank, aren't you? But again, they could invest more money and time into these things, but it seems to me like they just don't want to. Like the DS and the Wii were, in my opinion, so successful because they were easy to hack, just like the PS1. Yeah, everybody had a chipped PS1. Everybody.
Yeah.
And I think the Wii and the DS were similar. Like my Wii is hacked. Mine
was. I had an R4 card for my DS.
My mum has an R4 card for a DS. I mean, so, invest money. They made bucket loads on the DS and the Wii, just on console sales alone. So invest a bit of that in security. Like, I know the Wii U was a bit better. The 3DS was a little bit better. Like, I mean, you aren't going to get an average consumer having a hacked 3DS or a Wii U. Like it was so easy back on the Wii and DS days.
DS.
I think the Switch, while there are lots of sort of videos and stuff online of the Switch being hacked, it still does seem to be like a professional thing. Like,
oh yeah, you have to know what you're doing.
Me and you aren't going to be able to do it yet.
No.
Which, I mean, with the Wii, you just download a file from the internet, stick it in your memory card, and boom, you're in. That's it. It was easy. So, like, security, I understand security and why they would want to prevent this, but still, it's Nintendo need to think about their priorities, I think, a little bit more.
Yeah, Nintendo did respond to these issues of backing up your save data. And I'll read this verbatim. They basically said, Animal Crossing New Horizons will have, because this is no damage limitation, yeah, will have a way of backing up your save data.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I have to laugh. However, it will be separate from the cloud saving functionality of Nintendo Switch Online due to the unique nature of the game's save data, exactly what we just said. Nintendo was not able to provide exact details of how a Nintendo Switch Online subscription will be needed for this functionality, but they said you need a Nintendo Switch Online subscription. Otherwise, you won't be able to back up your save data. It's like, not back up, or we still not 100% clear here, Nintendo. And they said, and that it can only be used when your Nintendo Switch is damaged or lost. And there's no finalized date for it as well. So this is really maybe just a quick statement from Nintendo trying to assuage the fears of people like us and failing miserably.
Mm-hmm. In fact, no, they haven't failed miserably. They've just made it much, much worse.
Yeah.
And they've given us
a bigger hole.
Yeah, they've given us more questions than answers.
Yeah. I just find that amazing, that kind of only if your Switch is damaged or lost.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
The one, my biggest fear is that I buy a Switch Pro. What's going to happen when a Switch Pro comes out in maybe in 2020? I know they've said there's nothing coming this year, but you never know. And I buy a Switch Pro, and then am I going to be able to cut across, or do I have to lie to Nintendo and go, my Switch is lost, but now I want to copy my Animal Crossing file across to my new Switch Pro?
That's exactly my thoughts as well. Like, what about those of us who are spending more money and upgrading our hardware? It doesn't even have to be a Pro. Maybe you want to get a Switch Lite, and that's going to become your main console.
Yeah.
You decided, I don't want to play on the TV anymore. I'm going to buy a Switch Lite, transfer all my saves, and then suddenly Animal Crossing's gone, and you have to start again. Why wouldn't they explain what you need to do? Why? And this, like, for me, the most insulting part is that obviously the save is not using the cloud, because they've said that much already, which our Nintendo Online subscription is paying for, cloud saves. We're paying them to store our saves in the cloud, okay. And the fact that your save file on your console, locally saved,
yeah.
Like, just imagine, I know there's been some famous stories on the internet about, like, old women who've put, like, 5,000 hours into Animal Crossing 3DS.
Yeah.
Just imagine if that was your grandma, And she has no idea, like, what Nintendo Switch Online is. She's got a Switch Lite and Animal Crossing, and that is it. And she plays it for 4 hours every day because she's got nothing else to do. And then a Switch breaks, and she wants to transfer it onto a new console, and Nintendo say, have you got Nintendo Switch Online? What's that? Sorry. See you later.
Forget. Software.
Which is
And that's it.
absolutely,
Put the phone down.
absolutely blows my mind. Like just how short-sighted it is and how it's just insane. It's inept. Completely inept.
So does that mean that there is some record on the Switch? They must be keeping
there must
the
be
save
something
somewhere.
Exactly, and maybe it is based online somewhere, and that's why this subscription is needed somewhere, like top secret Nintendo headquarters. Like all the Animal Crossing files are stored there, and that's why, you know, to maintain this little secret room with all the Animal Crossing saves, that's why you need to pay the online subscription fee. They go in and it's on a disc, it's on a real disc, and they take it out, they post it to you, and then but that's the only explanation I can think of why you would need to pay for that privilege.
But this is the plot thickens all the time. It's like
I know.
if they had got it there, that save file, and they must have some way of storing it, because why would you need Nintendo Switch Online subscription if you're going to get this basically reimbursed your save file?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't we just have it on the cloud initially? Surely there's some workaround going, okay, we can link all these users together just for this. I don't know. It's
infuriating. But at the end of the day, it's because of two things. Because firstly, bad messaging, and secondly, because they haven't spoken about the game, and all the information's out there, and they're still just sat there.
Well, now they're shooting
your
themselves in
direct
the
will
foot.
come, peasants. Your direct will come.
Yeah.
End of February, early March, one day before the game launches, it will come. It is annoying. It's very annoying. And do you know what? I'm not going to get this on launch.
It has really soured me. And there's a few other things to talk about Animal Crossing as well, which have soured me a bit as well. So I put enough money on my eShop ready to buy 2 of those game vouchers so I could pick up Animal Crossing for £42 for the game voucher price. And now I'm like, I got the money in the eShop. I'm not willing to put it down yet. No. I need to know what's happening.
I mean, if I buy it, it will be after it's launched. I'm not going to pre-order it, definitely. But I'm definitely going to wait until they've spoken about the issues that it has, instead of trying to make us all guess. And as you said, other problems.
Yeah, and this one is from the official game page. So you go into Nintendo America's website and you go into the official game page for Animal Crossing. Scroll down the bottom and it has all those warnings, the PEGI, well, it's not PEGI rating in US, but the rating and blah, 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 blah. And one of the things that pops up is in-game purchases. We talked about this last week. And saying that, it's not going to happen on a full-priced Nintendo game. They're not going to have some microtransactions, surely. Surely, Nick.
I hope not. But I'm racking my brains trying to think what kind of similar DLC Animal Crossing could have to Splatoon or to Fire Emblem or Smash Brothers. And the only thing that comes to my mind really is extra furniture for money. Thinking about the 3DS game, how that was structured, and obviously they can evolve the series in other ways as well, but that was a game that needed to be played for the full year. It was a very long process where you start off very small, you unlock more and more and more and more as you go on. It's not really the type of game that needs DLC. It's already got a year's worth of content built into it and progression that'll take you hundreds and hundreds of hours if you want to go right to the end. So this does worry me that we're going to see some kind of in-game purchases in the ilk of very, very small amounts of money for stuff. Or you can do some challenge to get it.
Yeah, maybe it's like the positive way of looking. Well, it's not a positive way of adding any kind of purchases into it, but positive. Like if it was like me, Tomo, it'd be very difficult to spend your money. But if you take your time and do it, you can unlock it anyway.
Yeah, but that's. I mean,
that's
it's ruining the game. And we spoke about item manipulation. Well, it isn't getting items much faster. Basically, item manipulation. Yeah. I hope it's not this. And 90% of me thinks it's not going to be this, but there is that little, after our discussion last week about what they've done over the last year in the mobile market, I think, Greg could be right. Like this could be the one that this could be the floodgates opening.
Floodgates are opening. Yeah.
So definitely, sorry. continue.
No. I was going to say, like, it could be, if it was more substantial, single player kind of DLC.
Yes.
I'm thinking it could be other islands.
Yes.
Because if you go to Nintendo America's official pages for Smash and for Fire Emblem, it does say the same. It doesn't say we've got DLC. It says in-game purchases.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be like a DLC pack, which this would annoy me as well, though. If the things I liked about the 3DS Animal Crossing, there was the Captain's Island. You know, you go on the boat, go across the, and then you play some games online with your mates. You know, and there was a separate island. If they're going to lock things like that behind DLC, that would annoy me.
Yeah, it would annoy me.
I just bought your game.
And I wouldn't
give it to me in full.
I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't pay for it. Yeah. We need a direct for this game. Like, it's tiresome talking about speculation.
There's just too much we don't know, basically.
Yeah. And I mean, do you remember when Zelda Breath of the Wild was shown at E3 and they showed us the entirety of the plateau,
the DLC,
the Great Plateau. The Great Plateau.
Yes,
people spent hours. People were doing everything. Like there was some people who had hour-long videos showing what you could do in Zelda, and it was still 1% of the game.
Yeah,
like you can show us more than we've seen without showing us everything. You know what I mean? Like Odyssey as well. Like okay, we only had two videos really before that came out. Like 2 trailer. I don't think we saw much gameplay. But there was 2 specific trailers for Odyssey.
There was some E3 Treehouse stuff, wasn't there?
And E3 Treehouse stuff.
Yeah.
And all of that, even for me personally, those 2 trailers showed me everything about Odyssey that I needed to know without showing me too much. And I just feel with Animal Crossing, they've just not done that at all. Like, we don't know anything about it.
And I know it will come. It's just bloody hurry up about it, innit?
Yeah,
you know, it's March
the
20th, a month now. Come on. So the last kind of little news, and this was dropped from Animal Crossing Pocket News on Twitter. And it's that Animal Crossing, this baffles my mind as well. Animal Crossing New Horizons will be the next title to give the mobile phone app a shot. It says some aspects of online interaction will be handled through the mobile phone app. And this is something we don't know about again. It's another one of those little pictures at the bottom, in-game app purchases, you know, and then another picture saying uses the mobile app. Mm-hmm. Whether or not it's more substantial like the Splatoon 2, and you can purchase, you know, you can get certain clothes and items through this app, or whether it's just there for online chat.
Mm.
But another one of my fears, the mobile app is not dying. It needs to go.
I haven't used the mobile app for over a year, and I realized this week why I haven't used it. Because when I changed my region on the Switch, a long time ago, every time you change the region, you are logged out of all the apps. So I just, and like when I was playing Mario Kart or Smash Online, it would never say, you know, it would say, he would hit you with the notification chat online. It never did that to me. And I didn't understand why. That's the reason why. So I went into it the other week and I had a look at the Smash stuff is useless. Like it's not good, but the Splatoon page was pretty good actually. Yeah. But I mean, that was based on the Splatnet. I don't know if you remember on the Wii also had like a website. And I used to check that all the time. There was like a separate website online, like not on your, well, you could use your phone, but there was no app for it. And you could see the same sort of stuff like stats, last battles and things like that.
And the schedule. I always used to look at the Splatnet and look at schedule, or when is Salmon Run happening, or right, put that in my mind on Saturday. I got a session now. I can.
So if it's anything like Splatoon, that would be a bit better, but we'll see. Like, again, we know nothing about the game, so I have no idea how the mobile app could be implemented.
It could just be simple, you know, mobile chat, and that's it. Just like ARMS and all the other games.
It is much better than We Speak.
Yes, yes, I agree. There are pros and cons with everything.
It's been almost 10 years and they've made a little bit of progress. You know, we're still using other devices, but I remember in my old room in my first ever house,
You had a Wii Speak?
I got a Wii Speak, and me and
Wow.
Hero of Time played Animal Crossing together on the Wii. And somebody else from the forums, but I can't remember who it was. But it was...
And how did it work?
It was pointless. Like, it was useless, really. Because the quality was not that great. I mean, the only thing I remember why I remember him playing with Hero of Time is because he had a Northeastern accent.
Yeah. Which
I didn't expect, and he did. So, that's what I remember of Wii Speak, playing Animal Crossing with Hero of Time. But I don't know. The mobile app's terrible, but at least we'll be able maybe to chat with people and tell them, please don't chop down that tree.
Yeah. Don't run on my flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all we've got. Any other concerns? Or when do you think this Animal Crossing Nintendo Direct's going to happen, Nick?
I have no idea. I'm going to wild guess, I would say probably next week, a month before launch.
Greg said today, didn't he? Greg said we're going to get an announcement today. Announcement could be tomorrow. Usually Thursdays are direct, so... Apparently there's a holiday in Japan today, which is a Wednesday. So there's a good chance you won't see an announcement. I'd plump for next week as well.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. But my hype level, my anticipation is rock bottom. Like, I'll watch it with a little bit of interest, what the game's about. But I'm honestly expecting to walk away very disappointed rather than excited, which is a shame because I do love Animal Crossing.
It's got so much potential, hasn't it?
Yeah.
The in my mind, the potential for some online interaction and games. Like I said, the Captain's Island and all that. Tortimer's Island, sorry, it was when it was a turtle. Just loads of that going on would be fantastic.
We'll see.
I'm hoping. Keep my fingers crossed. Let's hope the app dies and burns in a fire of hell. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give us a like if you've enjoyed our content. You can also check out our other great content on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and the N-E Café podcast from all good podcast providers. Just follow the links in the description below.